What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop and welcome to one of the most original ideas for a video on YouTube that you have ever seen, my top 10 hopes for Pokemon Sword and Shield. In all seriousness though, I know that a bunch of other people have talked about their hopes for Sword and Shield already, and I have even gone over several things that I want to see in the game as well. However, I do have a very specific reason for why I'm bringing this up now. I personally believe it's pretty likely we will get some more information on Sword and Shield later this month, just for the simple fact that this month, the month of May, is exactly when we got our first new batch of information after the reveal of Sun and Moon, and it's also when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were revealed as well, plus Detective Pikachu comes out this month, so it's a very Pokemon-centric month in terms of releases and reveals. And so I figured just before we potentially get any more information, I would go ahead and put my top 10 hopes on the record for everyone to hear and see whether or not any of these things actually happen. Also, even though these are technically my top 10, I don't really want one of them more than the other, so these 10 in particular are going to be in no specific order, but they're still technically my top 10, so yeah, we're just gonna roll with it. Anyways though, with all of the nonsense out of the way, here are my top 10 hopes for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, the first thing I want to see in Pokemon Sword and Shield is the greater Pokemon world woven into the story of the Galar region. What I mean by this exactly is having a lot of cameo appearances by older characters, having a lot of mentions of other events that occurred in other areas of the Pokemon world, and basically just bringing the rest of the Pokemon world into the Galar region. It's just so cool when you get to see a character from an older game appear in a newer one, because it does a lot for the interconnectivity of the entire Pokemon world, and it really goes a long way in showing you that these regions that we are playing in aren't isolated and aren't their own individual thing, but rather they are all a part of a bigger, more massive Pokemon world. So for Pokemon Sword and Shield, this is exactly what I want to see. A lot of returning character cameos, mentions of other regions, and just the rest of the Pokemon world brought into the Galar region. The next thing I really want to see in Pokemon Sword and Shield is an evil team that takes advantage of the steampunk or industrial revolution aesthetic. The Galar region has already proven to be an immensely industrial place, and I think this style, or this aesthetic once again, if you will, could be used so well in the evil team for this region. Not only is it a very interesting bit of culture from a very interesting bit of history, but I think it would work really well for the overall look of the Galar region's evil team. And if you want to take it a bit further, I think taking advantage of the steampunk style would really be the best way for the evil team of the Galar region to appear. And speaking of the steampunk style, another thing that I really want to see out of the evil team in this generation is having their plot or their overall goals revolving around the concept of time. I talked about in a previous theory video how this would be a very good fit, and overall I just think it would be so cool to see this kind of concept explored in an evil team, and the steampunk aesthetic would go really well with that as well, so I think these two are a match made in heaven, and I think they would work really well in Galar, so I really want to see it in Sword and Shield. Now, this next one is a hope that I'm pretty sure every single Pokemon fan has as well, and that would be a big, high-quality Pokédex that just absolutely blows me away. The thing I definitely look forward to the most with every new Pokemon game, and I know a lot of people do as well, are the brand new Pokemon that are introduced every time around. And because in the last couple generations we've had smaller Pokedexes compared to the big 100+ Pokedexes that we had in generations prior, I really want to see a return to the old form, if you will, and have a big, nice, meaty Pokedex that just gives us a ton of really cool new Pokemon. And even though I have noticed myself that I tend to really appreciate Pokemon designs the longer they are around, I just really want to see some amazing new Pokemon that blow me away right from the start and really get me hyped for what these games are going to bring to the table when they release later this year. Alright, next up on the list is a post-game for Pokemon Sword and Shield involving a brand new explorable area. Now, while this description does fit the mold for a second explorable region, that is not necessarily what I'm asking for here. Rather, I am simply asking to be able to explore a brand new area, be it a new set of towns, be it a couple different islands, be it a second region altogether, after we beat the main story. Two of my favorite Pokemon games of all time are Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Fire Red and Leaf Green, and while I'm pretty sure you can guess why Heart Gold and Soul Silver are my favorites, the reason why Fire Red and Leaf Green rank so high for me is because of the introduction of the Sevi Islands. The Sevi Islands and Fire Red and Leaf Green are a perfect example of what a good post-game can do for the overall quality of a Pokemon game as a whole. They took the average Pokemon Red and Blue and made them, in my opinion, one of the best Pokemon games of all time, simply because they gave us more to explore after the end credits rolled. And this is exactly what I want to see for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Please do not just give us a new battle facility or simple fetch quests like you did in Sun and Moon with the Battle Tree and the Ultra Beasts. Rather, if you want to do those type of things, at least put them in a brand new setting so we can have a continued sense of exploration even after the game is technically done. Next up on my list is one that's a bit out of left field and is probably not that likely, but I would love to see it happen in Sword and Shield, and that is the idea of a previously cut beta Pokemon brought back as a new Pokemon for the Galar region. Now, the reason why I bring this up now is because recently we have been learning a lot about cut beta Pokemon that we did not know before from the first couple generations of Pokemon. In the past year or so, we have learned about a bunch of Generation 1 and Generation 2 Pokemon that were cut from their respective final games, and I think Game Freak is definitely aware that this is happening, especially because in some cases, they were the ones who revealed these beta Pokemon to us themselves. We have even seen in some cases, like with Mime Jr. for instance, that there were Pokemon that were considered earlier than they initially debuted, and after some reworkings to their design, were actually made into official Pokemon, and this is exactly what I want to see for Sword and Shield. I know it's not super likely in the grand scheme of things, but given the way all of this beta development information has become public information, which is really weird and unusual in terms of video game development, I think it would be a nice homage to this information we've learned and a nice homage to the Pokemon franchise in general for Game Freak to do this, and I would love to see it happen in Sword and Shield. Now, in previous Sword and Shield videos, I have brought up the idea that I don't want to see that many legendary Pokemon in Sword and Shield to combat the oversaturation of legendaries that we have seen in recent generations. However, to go along with this, I also want to see the reintroduction of roaming legendary Pokemon in these new games. Now, I know some people aren't the biggest fan of roaming legendaries, and at the very least, they are frustrating and hard to catch, but it's because they are frustrating and hard to catch that I want them back. Tracking these Pokemon down and catching them, especially as a kid, was extremely frustrating, but truth be told, there should be no other way that you should feel when trying to catch a legendary Pokemon, and that's what's really at the root of this request. Legendary Pokemon need to be hard to catch again, otherwise they really aren't that legendary, and easily the best way in terms of making a Pokemon a challenge to catch that we've ever seen in Pokemon is the concept of a roaming Pokemon or a roaming legendary Pokemon, and that's exactly why I want to see this feature brought back, because it's the best way to make these legendary Pokemon actually legendary again and give us a challenge that we so desperately crave and deserve as longtime Pokemon fans. My next hope for Sword and Shield is one that's been talked about to death not only by me, but basically the entire Pokemon fan base, so I'll keep it short and sweet, but nevertheless, I want to see a cocky, jerky rival in these games. Now, I'm sure you've heard the argument before that the concept of a rival in Pokemon was epitomized by the first two generations of rivals, and the rivals that we've got in newer games that are more friendly and tend to help you more than challenge you really just do not make for a very good experience at all. So TLDR, we really need a new rival in these games that actually fits the definition of the word and challenges us and makes us want to beat them, as opposed to getting help from them and them being nice to us all the time. However, the one extra element that I want to talk about here about the rival that hasn't been talked about before is that I want our rival in Sword and Shield to be extra British. Kind of in the way that our rival How was extra Hawaiian, quote unquote, I think it would be really cool and really funny to have our rival be a little bit extra British, kind of be snobby, kind of be bratty, and basically just be a Draco Malfoy to our Harry Potter, if that gives you an idea of what I want. And if we got this kind of character as our rival in Sword and Shield, I would be absolutely ecstatic because it could only make for a better game as opposed to the more recent rivals that kind of make for a worse game in my opinion. Coming up next on the list, I want Pokemon Sword and Shield to be a long game. Now, this isn't to say that Pokemon games have had a problem in the past with being too short, at least in my opinion. I'm simply speaking from a perspective of if we have a long game, it simply gives us more content to look forward to within that game. In Pokemon X and Y, for instance, there is a huge gap between the first gym and the second gym, and even though the pacing of the game picks up after this, I remember playing these games for the first time, having about 8 hours of gameplay into them, and I hadn't even reached the second gym, and when I realized this and put 2 and 2 together, I was just so amazed at the fact that it seemed at the time that I was playing a really lengthy, really content-rich, and long Pokemon game, and it had me really excited. And even though Pokemon X and Y didn't end up quite that way, I think Sword and Shield could benefit a lot from making the main campaign of the game a little bit lengthier than we've come to expect with Pokemon games. Not only would this just give us more content in the game itself, which is always a good thing obviously, but I think it could also go a long way in showing the effort put into the game on the part of the developers, which I think is really important for this game in particular, given that it's the first home console Pokemon game and it has all this extra power and capability to work with. So I think if they put some of that extra capability into making the game a bit longer, it would go a long way in the eyes of the fans, and me especially. Coming up next though, I want to see some awesome inanimate object Pokemon in this game. Now, I actually made a whole video detailing my top 5 inanimate object Pokemon for Sword and Shield, and recently I've actually got a little bit of a soft spot for these types of Pokemon. Reason being is because they are the Pokemon that get the most flack, if you will, in terms of being uncreative, uninspired, or overall just looked upon as bad by the fan base, when in reality, they give us some of the most interesting and creative Pokemon that we have ever seen. I just think there is so much potential for some amazing inanimate object Pokemon in Sword and Shield with the English culture that they have the opportunity to take advantage of in the Galar region, and I really hope we see at least a good handful of these types of Pokemon in the game. And finally, to round off the video, my last hope for Sword and Shield is a bit of an offshoot pick. It's a bit of a wild card, but I think it would be amazing if it happened at the same time, and that would be for a stadium announcer to appear during the stadium gym battles, just like we had in Pokemon Stadium. One of the cooler features of Pokemon Stadium is that it actually had commentated battles like we sometimes saw in the anime, and given the fact that we have these big stadium-like venues in Sword and Shield, I think it would be amazing to bring this feature to the main series with these games. Pokemon League matches, whether it be gym battles or battles with the Elite Four, have always been implied to be more of a spectacle type event, especially in the anime. And now that we are seeing something a little more similar to the anime in the main series with these huge stadiums where there's a huge audience watching your battles, I think the perfect way to really emphasize this type of setting is to have an announcer commentate on your battles like we saw in Pokemon Stadium. Now, I called this a bit of an offshoot pick because I just don't know if it's the type of thing that Game Freak would want to put into the main series games, but it's an absolute must-have just because of the golden opportunity that is being presented here. And given the fact that this really wouldn't be that hard to implement, especially since it was done 20 years ago on an N64 game, just makes this an absolute must-have even if it is out of left field, and it's something I am really hoping to see in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And there we have it, everybody. Those were my 10 hopes for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, given the fact that we're probably nearing another announcement, I really hope we see a couple of these come to fruition, but I wanted to go ahead and get them all out there anyway, so we can kind of take note of them and see which of them happen and which of them don't as we get closer to release. If you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below, as always, which one of these hopes you think would be coolest to have in the game and what your personal hopes are for the game as well. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and if you'd like to support the channel further, check me out on Spotify, give me a follow there, listen to some of my Pokemon remixes, and that directly supports the channel here and supports the production of future videos like this, and it is greatly appreciated. With all that being said though, I will be back with another video on Thursday, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as it goes live, and until then, as always, you know I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.